That's true. All right, we've got a lot of people tuning in, so I'm sure all of you know.
Yeah.
But if you don't, so Sarah is one of the best bottom turners at Hokipa. She moved to Maui from New Caledonia. She is a math whiz. What do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey, just to start off?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So I guess I'm gonna clear the math whiz part right off, because that was the beginning of my journey. I studied computer science, and I got in an engineering school. And I've always, like, when I was a teenager, that's when I discovered windsurfing and wave sailing. At the age of 15, I rode my first wave on the outer reefs of New Caledonia, and I already knew I wanted this to have a special place in my life. But I was good in school, and just my family kind of pushed me to go the safe route, and I don't blame them. I mean, starting a career in windsurfing as a woman at the time was definitely not looking like a safe, guaranteed path. So I went to school, got a degree, and by the time I had my degree, I was still just, my dream was still going strong, you know, even though I hadn't windsurfed for almost 5 years. I just sat at a computer basically for 5 years. And so I flew to Maui, came to do the Aloha Classic in 2012 with really no expectations, just to listen to my dream a little bit more, and yeah, it just started all to make sense when I did okay in the competition, and I got my first offer of a sponsorship. So from there, I was like, okay, this is the path I'm going to pursue, and so since 2013, I've been making this my career. So there's been ups and downs, and times where it was not easy to make a living out of sponsorships, and I had to supplement that with being a fitness trainer. And in the end, it ended up being a blessing, because that's something I love to do, and I balance it so well with my life and my career. So I'm stoked to have been kind of forced at the beginning into this situation, but now I'm really grateful that it's how things worked out.
And what were some of the highlights along that path?
Well, I don't know, like so many, like the waves that I rode, the people that I met, the competition that I won. It's just so many moments that required hard work, and sometimes like going for adventures that you had really no idea how things were going to turn out, and you ended up with some really nice surprises. So it's hard to pinpoint something specific, but it was, yeah, I mean, I definitely do not regret at all making this decision to leave a safe path with a guaranteed income and lifestyle into this one. Like, it just, everything that's happened has been so fun, and made me forced to know myself better. So yeah, really love this journey.
Yeah, wonderful. Very, very inspiring. So the like trough of that question, what was the biggest challenge that you faced? What was the hardest part of like you said, giving up that guaranteed income, that guaranteed lifestyle to pursue a windsurfing dream?
It really was transitioning from a way of operating that was kind of straightforward and transactional. Like, as an engineer, you know, you solve an equation, and it is either solved or not, and you do a job and you get paid for doing the job. It's just very transactional and basic and easy. And so going into becoming an athlete and figuring out what is the value that you create, how can you measure that value, and how can you be compensated for that, and trying to make a living, because the challenge has never quite been about really like the motivation and the passion that's always been there. It's been more about how to make it happen in the real world and still pay for your bills and have the means to continue this dream. So that's been the thing that I had to really like discover, a completely new world of marketing yourself and all this stuff. That's been more of a challenge because I was just never taught how to do so, but being forced to learn, and little by little learn how to navigate this new this new world, basically.
Right.
Any regrets?
Any regrets? I don't know, frankly. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, sounds like a no. Yeah, good. And so, for everyone who doesn't know, Sarah trained some of the best windsurfers in the world, like Marsilio Brown, as well as herself. And so she's an expert for windsurf training. And so we're hoping to learn some secrets, learn some tips about what we all should be doing, what's important, and what our thoughts are. So you said you started training to supplement your life as a windsurf pro. How did that then transition to coaching guys like Bartinho and really developing programs for some of the top athletes on Maui?
Well, when I first started training, right away I fell in love with the process. I think with the engineering background, like seeing that you could take the same approach to optimizing your body, basically, and also being a petite woman, I'm like 110 pounds, so when I started doing a little bit of like legs training, getting more power into my legs or making my shoulders stronger, for me made a huge difference on the water. It went from being this small woman to being very strong and feeling that almost as a superpower. And suddenly I could do the things that I was seeing some other people do that I wanted to do. It just became available to me. So that felt like a huge empower feeling. And so then I like this joy of feeling that there was something you couldn't do, but you access that superpower to share that with people. At first, I started working at the Marriott for Get Glad Maui, which is a company that offers fitness classes for the hotel there in the south of Maui. So that's how I started to share this passion with people, like to help them tap into something that they thought they could not quite do, and then watch them accomplish and harness that strength or that balance or flexibility, whatever they were trying to progress on. And and so that's how I first started with these classes. And at some point I even was teaching swimming classes to babies and kids at a very young age. Like I kind of went through all these different groups of people, which was rad, because I didn't only train professional athletes, but I also got to work with people who are just coming here on vacation and kids and stuff. So that was really fun. And then about a year ago, I decided to officialize things with my personal training certification. So that's a test that you pass, and it's super interesting because you learn all these things in detail and all the science behind why you need to do a strength exercise before a power exercise to increase your power, basically. Like that, all that stuff to me is fascinating. And so then I started working with Marcio. It was very organic. We just talked at the beach and we just figured like, let's work together. And for me, it was this huge honor because obviously like, Marcio is a legend. And so to be able to train someone like him, I also get to work for Mateus, Isaac, Morgan Noiro. Did a program for Lina Arspenstein. So it was it's so fun to be able to share this with my community of windsurfers. And I'm kind of taking this time right now where we're stuck at home to create some programs online. This is something I've been wanting to do, but always been so busy. So this was a good opportunity for me to put that out there now for people.
Sounds amazing. I want to go back to something you said in the beginning where you were talking about training your shoulders and your legs, and that opened up a new world for you in windsurfing and you felt like a superhero. Can you tell us what muscle groups you were working and what exercises you were doing, specifically in that example?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the thing you gotta always remember is that everybody's got their different body with their different imbalances. So each person might need something different to focus on. If they come from a background in a different sport, they might be already like super active in their quadriceps, and so there's no point in focusing on increasing that. And maybe it's better to balance with doing more hamstring work. So But basically, like with me, what I really appreciated about working my legs is that it allowed me to be stronger in managing the wave. So in pushing on the rail for my bottom turns and absorbing and compressing at the top turn when I would hit the lip a little later than usual. So for that, you do basically like you work the. I like working with the X bar, doing squats with weight training, and not just like easy weight, but go all the way into max repetitions, and then comp that with power exercise moves, so that you recruit and you activate a maximum amount of muscle fibers. And when they're all recruited, because you did this max effort, then when you're going to do the power, like jumping onto a high box, you're going to recruit more muscle than if you were to jump into the high box without doing the strength part.
Right. So give us some examples. So when you're talking about doing max reps, are you talking about like actually like one of max, or you're talking about doing like a 5 rep set? What does that mean? And then what are the explosive exercises? Like, are you doing cleans? Are you talking about box jumps? Like what is the, can you walk us through that?
Like for max strength, you know, you can usually they talk about the 1 RM, the 1 rep max. So this is the maximum weight you can use to do 1 repetition with good form, and then you cannot do 1 more. That's like how you found out what's your maximum weight for a leg exercise, like the X bar, or it could be a barbell deadlift. The X bar is a little more functional for windsurfers, I think, because it recruits other muscles that we use, where the deadlifts are more like specifics to hamstrings. And so so yeah, like you can do your 1 RM, but what's important is just to repeat that protocol if you're going to test before and after to measure and analyze how your strength is improving. So if you're doing a 1 rep max, or if you're doing a 5, which would be like the weight that you can, the maximum weight you can use for 5 repetition, and then you cannot do anymore. As long as you repeat that throughout the process and you keep it consistent, it doesn't matter too much if you're doing 5 or 1 rep max. And then the power moves, box jumps is like the king of power moves, I think, for explosivity.
And what height is that? What height are you?
Well, when you're training for power, you want to go as high as you can. Like, so you want to do quality versus quantity.
But what do you recommend for people? So if people at home and they want to start doing this, what is height should they be jumping?
Well, they should first warm up. So they should take a height that's at least like 50% of what their maximum would be. And so I cannot really tell like what is someone's maximum or safe zone. It kind of depends on, have you ever...
But so what's the process though? What's the process for figuring that out for someone? So someone at home that wants to start doing this, okay, so they don't know like a certain amount of height, but maybe there's a process that they can go through to figure out where they should be.
Well, the best process, and I don't mean to insert myself too much there, but the best process is to have a trainer help you. And also because like X-bar, barbells, box jumps, like that's some kind of equipment that not necessarily everybody has at home, you know, so it's good to use a gym or a trainer for that. But imagine you have, I don't know, like some stairs or like a patio that you can jump onto that's pretty high. Like, then that's what you're going to get. You know, you're not going to be able to make it much higher or lower. You can practice like jumping onto that with rotations, jumping with a weight, jumping onto that starting in a very low squat position. So there's lots of options. I mean, at home, you're just going to adapt to the environment you have. So you're not going to be able to be as specific with your progression. But yeah, so it's power and strength are usually better to do in a gym or with a trainer, because you need different kind of equipment and a special progression.
Are there, so while that makes a lot of sense that it's better to do with a trainer, better to do in the gym, while people are stuck at home right now, are there substitutes that they can do?
Totally. Like typically I would do a combo, you would do like a wall sit, you know, so for example, like sitting against your wall. So that would be your strength exercise to replace the fact that we don't have a barbell to lift some weight. So you just get your legs tired by doing like a typical wall sit. You can even have a weight with you. So water bottle, cans of food, whatever you can find. And you can do that for up till a minute. You can even do like a single leg version. But you get the legs burning, and then you can do some like tuck jumps. So you're gonna jump as high as you can, tucking your legs up, and that's a very power move. Or you can do squat jumps, which are jumps where you start in the squat position with your butt low, and you jump as high as you can. And so if you do that and a core exercise like a plank, and then maybe a shoulder exercise like a push-up plus, that's a good circuit that you can practice at home, and that will cover your leg power and shoulder stability and core, just in a little circuit like this. So your wall sit, just a jump, and then you do a plank, just a regular plank on wrist or elbows, and then a push-up plus, which is a push-up where your elbows stay straight and you're only moving your shoulder blades. So that's really good to strengthen that mid part of your back that tends to be weak. In windsurfing, we're like super strong in the pecs, so that's why we have those rounded postures.
I have two questions. The first one is on my list. And we're gonna skip. So I'm gonna. Well, actually, so you first were talking about the bottom turn and how. Hold on, our neighbor is mowing the grass, which is a little bit loud. I hope that's not too loud.
And we have some really interesting questions from the audience.
So, yeah, we've got some good audience questions
in there.
So, about the bottom turn. So you were talking about how this training really helped your bottom turn, really helped your calves. So for those of you who don't know, Sarah's got an amazing bottom turn, one of the best bottom turns in the world. What tips can you give people? So bottom turns are, I think, one of the main questions that I get asked. Is the whole holy grail in windsurfing for wave riding.
Holy grail.
Yeah, this is the bottom turn unlocks everything. You know, if you can do a good bottom turn, it opens up all doors. You know, for everything. So, do you have any technical tips when you're on the water to help people bottom turn?
Yeah, so I like the comment on there of the guy who said we can do brush your teeth and do wall sits, by the way. That's a great mindset. I love to combine things like that. But bottom turn, my advice, I don't know if it will work for everyone, and if you're even going to think it's smart, but it's to basically like allow yourself to fuck up everything so that you can do your bottom turn as fully as possible. And that's the approach I took. So for a while, I focused pretty much only on doing bottom turns, and I had no good top turns because I would just spend so much time seeing how much can I push on my rail until it skips, or until I'm slowed down, or how do I adjust my body when I'm pushing, and how far should I reach back with my backhand. So it's the same approach I took when I was learning Vulcans, when I was doing freestyle early years. I was just sliding forever before even trying to stabilize myself, you know, after you do that 180 transition.
Right.
Because I wanted to feel that and really being able to master that whole thing before moving on to the next part. So I think it's debatable if it's a good strategy, because if you do it for too long, you can start to have a bad habit of not transitioning fast enough into the next move. And I think with wave sailing, you have to always be able to anticipate that next move. So it's important to not do that for too long. But for a bit, for the first part, like really, this is what I would recommend, is to not care too much about your top turn in order to be able to bring that backhand as far as you can, push on your toes, bring that weight forward, use the rail, put the board on the rail up until it maybe flips, and just go find that other side of the range, because when the range is here but we're practicing just that, we really have no idea of how much is out there for us to change our wave riding. So yeah.
That's a great tip, and I like this in everything, not just bottom turns or wave riding. You know, this is something I tell people in back loops as well when they ask me for advice. Is you need to find the point that's too far upwind on the takeoff. So you just keep going more and more and more and more. And once you find the point that's too far upwind, that shows you what the range is and what's possible. Because most people go too downwind when they're taking off for a back loop. And it's really great advice for the bottom turn as well. So
oh, cool. I'm glad.
you want to find what point does the board tip over? What point is it too far on the rail? And you'll find that you can get it really hard on the rail. One thing that I tell people that I think kind of is addressing one of the biggest mistakes people make is you're not steering the board. You're not pivoting the board. It's not about muscling or steering the board. It's just about turning it over. And once it gets over, it turns itself.
Yeah. What the rail wants to do.
Yeah. So you don't have to turn it. It's just about tipping it. It's about tipping it, not anything else. Mm-hmm. We've got some really great questions coming in on the comments. Do you want to check those out? And I've got a quick question for you, Sarah, before we get into the questions from the comments. You talked about the windsurfing posture. So if you're windsurfing a lot, you get this like hunched shoulder, this, I don't know, you've got whatever kind of muscle development going on here. I know for myself, like I've got these like really big muscles here, my posture is weird, and what can I do for that?
So in fitness training we have what we call overactive and underactive muscles. And so basically the process is you want to stretch the overactive and you want to strengthen the underactive. And in windsurfing, our overactive muscles are our pectorals. So they are so tight that they're pulling our shoulders forward. And a muscle called the latissimus dorsi, or people call it the lats. So it's this big muscle here on the side of your body. And so it's what we use to pull on the boom. So that's why it's always super tight. And so you want to stretch your pec. So to stretch your pec, the door stretch is my favorite. So you just use the frame of a door. You put your arms on the sides and you push your chest forward. You make sure you're not arching your lower back when you do that. So keep your ribs in and your core engaged. And that's going to stretch your pectorals. And to stretch your lats, same idea. You just reach for the corner of the wall or whatever you can grip on, and you kind of lean until it stretches your side here. And just these two stretches, like after a long session, you should always try to it'll take 2 minutes to do that, really. And if you are into foam rolling, I so recommend having a ball to foam roll your pec, either like a soft ball like this that's squishy, or more like this one is really hard. And you can just like place it between your pectoral and the wall and massage your pec. And that's like a free massage, you know, it's somebody like massaging, releasing the knots that are in your muscles, and it stretches it a little bit too. So that when I first came to Maui and I wasn't doing any fitness training, I was just windsurfing every day for hours and hours. And after I think a year and a half, I had started to have symptoms of tendinitis. And I couldn't lift my arm without having sharp pain here on top of the arm. And when I was introduced to foam rolling, I got rid of the pain in like a week. Just by foam rolling like 3 times a week. Yeah, so I'm not saying this is medicine. Like if you're injured, you should see a doctor, obviously, and be diagnosed properly. But there definitely are investments we can make in our body that only take as long as brushing your teeth, and that will avoid you to get through serious injuries that cost money, that put you out of the water, or that just hurt you and limit you, you know. So those 2 stretches, the pec stretches, the lat stretch, and foam rolling, I think are like number 1 thing you should do. And then if you can add up onto that is strengthening the mid back. So that the push-up plus that we were doing, where you keep your elbow straight and you just engage the shoulder blades. Or when you're doing strengthening exercises, also be aware that you want your muscles to work in the full range. So I see a lot of people doing pull-ups, and they will do their pull-ups like kind of staying there.
Okay.
And so that's strengthening your muscle in a very short range. But if you can go all the way down while still being engaged, obviously to protect your joint, but go as low as you can to stay safe and then come up, then you're working that muscle in its whole range. And so it's becoming strong while staying long. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're doing strength training, is to keep working the whole range.
Okay. Good. Okay. Now we've got some great questions from the comments. One I see here, and then Paul is going to ask some. Toby's asking, how do you get the board on the rail? What are you doing to get that board to go?
You reach your backhand as far back on the boom, and you lean forward on your front foot, and it will naturally, with these two things, tip down. You also look at the wave, but you gotta look almost like not down the wave, but if you want to hit the wave at 12 o'clock, you have to look at 1 o'clock, if not more.
Yeah.
And so just like keep that in mind. So if you're shooting for an easy turn at like 10 or 11 o'clock, then look at 12 o'clock and bring that backhand as far back on the boom and lean forward, and the board should tip, is what I would say. But maybe you have something to add to that too, to make it a little more complete.
I would say like it's really important to focus on your toes and heels. So I'm focusing so much on my toes when I'm bottom turning, and so much on my heels when I'm cutting back. It's really about, I've got so.
Did a great tutorial about like foot straps, also how big foot straps should be, and I think that's a great point actually. Like if your foot straps are too tight and you cannot get your foot far forward enough in the straps, then you're not going to be able to use your toes to get that tipping.
I mean, I'm putting so much pressure that I often break the plastic on the like plastic washers on the screws.
Oh yeah.
So which is I think maybe like a good thing for people to realize, that it's not this way. You know, I'm not pushing side to side. It's this way, and with so much force that it will break the plastic at some point. And so it's really just about getting that pressure on your toes, and then getting that pressure on your heels. For me, that's
I like to like if that person who asked the question, I don't know if they ever snowboard in their life, but it's almost like what you have to visualize is this contact between really the edge of something thin on the surface of the water or of the snow, and that's what's going to create a curve and in a place where you can push hard to send you up to the wave with more speed. Even though you're going up, you should be losing speed, but you have so much pressure. You can, when you're really using the rail, you can find a lot of pressure.
You're accelerating. It's an amazing feeling. It's really nice when it all comes together. All right, what other questions do we have?
So that question is from Bartolomeos. As a cue to Sarah, in your Cloud Break article at the Windsurf magazine, you talk about overcoming the fear. And he's asking, can you explain a bit more about that? Because I think that's also a really important point, and we talked about like in previous live streams about fear and overcoming fear. And I would love also like to hear from you, talk about a little bit more about how you overcome fear. I mean, we're surfing Jaws, so
I mean, fear is we all know fear. It's I like to say it's like the fear. It's not our fear.
Right.
Her or he, but and it's not just the size of the waves, or it can just be also like the adventure that you set yourself on, you know, and maybe you booked yourself a trip somewhere to go windsurf, and you're asking yourself, am I good enough? Is it a good investment? Should I do that? Am I really gonna have fun in the conditions? Blah blah blah. All these questions that make you fearful to commit to an adventure, whether it's traveling somewhere, learning how to jibe, or riding a giant wave, you know. So what allows me to make it through all these questions, doubt, this fear, this anxiety, is to bring it back to the step that I have to focus on right now, like the very next step, and rather than like pulling myself up and looking at the whole challenge that needs to be accomplished. Like,
right.
it's important. Yeah, when I'm getting ready to go to Jaws, or when I was trying to go to Fiji, there was really a fear of the wave, obviously, because I knew it was a wave that breaks on dry reef, and the reef is sharp. You can get infections and all that stuff. But I was also scared to like even make it. I booked my ticket less than an hour and a half before the plane take off. So I didn't even know if I was going to make it to the airport in time, and if my bags were going to arrive with me. And if I was just making the stupidest decision of my life, wasting so much money, you know, and to just arrive in Fiji with no bag. So there was this fear of, like, who am I to do that, to try this something crazy like that? I'm not a Red Bull athlete, you know, with a huge traveling budget and all the support that I wish I had. But I focused on a step at a time. I'm really lucky that I have people who help and support me. So my husband, Casey, that day when we had to pack a board bag in like 15 minutes, was just on point. Just like, let's throw everything in there, and then made it to the airport, and people let me run through the lines, and so I dealt with that first fear, and then it was time to deal with the fear of the wave, and then that's the same thing in the water, you know. I just focus on one step at a time. Well, really get out there, sail in the channel, observe the wave. Okay, try catch the shoulder, focus on that step first. You know, you don't have to start to think about like you on a giant wave or you doing the perfect jibe in a tricky moment. Like you can really try and break it down into steps. Because that's less daunting when you're focusing on a simple step.
Do you have, I think that's really good advice. Do you have any like emotional work that's being done? Like is there some kind of like psychological aspect to what's going on when you're dealing with fear at a place like Cloudbreak?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's in Cloudbreak, for me, it was about finding the balance between my inner warrior and my respectful self. This is very specific to Cloudbreak because it's a wave that has a ton of surfers. It's like a world-class wave. And when we sailed it with Camille Jubin, it was light wind and it was big. It was over mast high in some of the sets, but it was not like double mast high plus. So you still had to share the spot with surfers. And they had no mercy, you know, like they were just not hesitating to take off on a wave to completely block me and then let me facing dry reef and found, you know, and so and if I was too polite and always kind of giving a chance, I was not going to get any wave either. And I just flew there and spent all I could to make it there. I was not there to steal all the wave, but I definitely wanted to catch a few. So that's interesting because it's windsurfing, but it's definitely something that you have to figure out in life too. Is like how aggressive should you be about reaching your goals, but also respectful of your values of sharing and politeness and all of that. And so it's funny how there are just parallels between the water and real life like that. And it's both like communicate and help each other. So all show the weaknesses.
Right. Toby is asking, how important is the weight on the mast foot in wave sailing?
On the mast, so
you mean like on the point where the mast connects with the board? How much are you focusing on putting pressure down or up? How much? What are you thinking about, if at all, about the mast?
I think you do have to put some pressure on your mast as well, not just on your feet. I mean, the mast is kind of this third leg. I found that lately, getting into windsurf foiling kind of translates well into the sensations you need to have with that pressure on the mast. Because with wind foiling, you use the mast a ton to compensate the lift of the foil, and so this practice helps apply that skill in wave sailing where you're really like fighting pressure.
Okay, so that's great advice. So foiling helps with wave sailing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's
that
good.
every sport kind of helps teach you something.
Right,
I
right.
always love to mix it up, you know, in like sup and windsurf and surf and surf foil and windsurf foil.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to winging a little bit. And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you learn stuff that you can apply, and it's fun. It's fun to change the toys.
That brings me to another question. What is your opinion on what do you think about how important is it, or how helpful is it like to cross different sports on with water sports? Like, I don't know. Snowboarding is, I mean, it's kind of a water sport. But also, like, I don't know, like going to the gym, CrossFit, basketball, football, soccer, tennis, badminton. I don't know, there are plenty of sports.
Yeah.
So do you think that
Every sport
helps?
has something to teach you. I think sports is great. Being active is great, and it's um, it's good to do something that's exciting, you know, because being in a gym with no real purpose to me is not thrilling. Like I wouldn't work out if I was not trying to apply that into the real world in the water sports that I do. But yeah, if you can get your cardio from um, I don't know, biking or mountain biking or playing tennis, or get some leg strength from skiing, or you know, I'm all about it. Like the more you can actually have fun while you're getting stronger, the better. And uh, and then you also might get something that you don't have in the other sports. You know, like we don't have teams in windsurfing, so maybe it's nice to play team sport to compensate for that. Um, but as specifically to wave sailing, I would say that I think almost every wave sailor, windsurfer should try surfing, regular surfing once in their lives, because it would give them another perspective of pure interaction between you and the wave. And to feel that interaction without the help of a sail can help you understand better how to utilize the wave when you're wave sailing.
Great. I agree.
Yeah.
So we both were swimming Hookkeeper
Mhm.
a week ago, I think. That was also really nice to connect with the spot, like, and the environment and with the current,
Yes,
and you know, like
for
see the
sure.
wave just by swimming. So that's like also good.
Yeah, I really recommend to everyone, wherever you're sailing, to get comfortable swimming. I think it's good exercise and it's good training, but also it's so important if you want to improve in wave riding to be comfortable without the equipment, because it can so often happen that you get separated from the gear and maybe you can be stuck out to sea for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or even an hour, depending, you know, in some of
Yeah.
the worst cases, or even longer. I mean, I know stories of people who have been separated from their gear and they were swimming for hours and they had to come in somewhere down the coast and sleep. This was in California, and sleep under a cliff and wait till they were rescued the next day. So that's a pretty rare situation. But the point is that you want to be comfortable swimming. It's really important. And so it's just something I tell people a lot. You know, like go to the pool, do laps. You know, get comfortable swimming. Swim in your spot. Get comfortable with white water. Get comfortable with currents.
Yes.
I think in terms of like a practical training to like really help your wave sailing, that is so important, because then you're more comfortable, you're confident, and that then gives you the foundation to go for it. So you're not hesitating because of fear.
So I so agree with that, and not as great for physical strength, but really amazing for the mental side. You can also pair your training with like if you're into free diving, if it's something that you have access to, and free diving, it's teaching you to calm your mind a lot, because you need to find ways to use less oxygen. So it's about also like slowing down your brain, your thoughts of fear, like your instinctive reflex to contract your muscle when you're scared. So that teaching is going to help you in if you're advanced windsurfer who goes in big waves or does things that are very challenging like this. But it also helps so much in life when you're going through a high stress situation, and there is just stuff that you can avoid dealing with. Like you just don't have to, on top of the stress, deal with like being super tight and then your back hurts at the end of the day. So
Right.
Yeah,
So,
you
so
so much
Garrett
stretch.
is asking, and this dovetails really well with what you're just talking about. He's asking about, are there any breath training exercises that you do to train for big waves, especially jaws and wiping out at jaws?
Yeah, dynamic breath hold is the main one. So it's you may have seen the images of us like picking up rocks on the bottom of the ocean and running, and it's um, it's basically like holding your breath while working out physically, which is close to how you experience your breath hold in big waves. You're not in big waves, you're not going to prepare your breath hold and take time to relax and do a little bit of yoga to expand your chest and then go into your breath hold. No, it's more like you're just pumping for the wave
Right.
and you got it and your heart is racing and you do a mistake and boom, you're under the water. So that's why we do this dynamic type of breath hold training. So you can like run as far as you can with a rock, or you can run, take only one breath, come back down, run, only one breath, come back down, and so that's teaching you to operate with less oxygen.
Where are you doing that training? In the ocean, in a pool?
In Maui. In Maui, we do it in the ocean. So there's a pavilion, a place where the bottom is sand, and you kind of have to time it when there's not much swells, which is a little tricky, Mother Nature, but it's it's not like we do it every day either. So it's.
Do you have any advice for someone that wants to do it at home? So if you're doing that kind of training in a pool, how much weight should you take?
Don't
do it alone. That's good advice. Yeah.
Do never do breath hold alone, because
So obvious.
But it's really fascinating, and if you haven't done this kind of training, what I'm about to say is going to sound really strange, but you reach a point where suddenly it feels like you can hold your breath forever. It's like I don't know. I remember when I was. It's been a while actually since I've done a lot of breath training, but we used to do quite a bit, and there was something that kind of scared me about, like, you get to this point where you're underwater, we're like running at pavilions there with the rocks underwater, and we reach a point where like at maybe like 2 minutes or something, and you kind of pass that like initial panic, and it gets like eerily calm, like you're fine actually, and your body knows it, or your brain knows it, and so it's really important, I think, to have someone there just to help make sure that you're being safe and that you're not pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you pass out, because once you get into it, like quite quickly, you go a lot farther than you think you can, and you're a lot calmer than you'd expect
sure.
to be.
Yeah.
And
it's possible that when experimenting with the limits, you with breath hold, like there's just the typical, if you're doing breath hold in depth, but even in the pool, like when coming up, you can pass out, and it's nothing bad. Like some people, you just need someone to bring you up to the surface, and you're going to be totally fine with no symptoms. But if you don't have that person, then you die, you drown. So it's very serious and very important to do it with someone.
Yeah.
So just one thing, like a couple of people are asking right now about the positioning of the mast.
Yeah, Mikhail's asking, I saw this.
I would say that you make a tutorial about that.
Okay, I'll make a tutorial about mass foot pressure. I'll say just quickly, I think it really depends on your weight. I think lighter people can ride farther forward, which I kind of have to think about what's going on with the physics there. But I think it has to do with getting that pressure farther forward, and someone who's heavier doesn't need the help, and so it can be too much pressure forward.
I feel like it may depend so much on the shape, but I would say
that's true.
That when I tune a board, if I feel like I'm not able to get to my 12 o'clock, that I'm only able to go to 10 or 11 when I really want to get that extra angle, then I move the mast rack back and I gain more freedom to go more vertical. And when I am at the top turn, if I feel like I'm struggling to dive back down into the wave, then I bring it more forward. I bring the mass rack forward, and if it's forward, then it's easier for me to get that transition. And so then it's about finding that compromise between the two, where I am still able to get the bottom turn that I want and pull the everything back down at the top turns. That's how I've been feeling it.
So I think the biggest takeaway from what you just said is you got to move it. You got to test. There's not one answer. You've got to try it, move it about a centimeter each way, or go to the extremes and then feel what that is doing. Sometimes, especially when I get a new board, I come into the beach every 10 minutes and I'm moving. I've got a screwdriver in the sand and I'm playing with the fins and I'm moving the mast track just to figure out where it needs to be, because every board is different. And so sometimes I'll be riding pretty far forward on a board, or sometimes pretty far back with the mast track. And so it really just depends. So testing is so important because it does make a big difference.
Yeah, nobody can do it for you, really. I mean, someone can kind of get you to a starting point, but then you have to figure out yourself what's the best thing.
So we don't have that much time left, so I want to go through a few of more of the questions that were sent in. So you're one of the lighter professional windsurfers in terms of weight. I get a lot of people were asking about how they should set up their gear if they're lighter. So some people wrote in that they maybe weigh 100 pounds and they're on a 70-liter board.
100 pounds for Europe?
What is that, 50 kilos? I don't know, 50 kilos, something like that. So say someone is 50 kilos, between 50, 60 kilos, but they're on a 70-liter board or a 75-liter board, and they have problems getting overpowered, they have problems wave riding. Give us some advice.
Okay, so I think there are two scenarios. One is you cannot change the equipment and you have to do with what you have. And two, you can get a smaller boat, basically. But if you cannot change your equipment, which I totally understand, equipment is expensive, so sometimes can't do that right when we want. You can always bring your mast rack forward. That will tame down the board in the windy days. So if your board feel like it's flying, the nose wants to take off and do crazy thing, mast rack forward. That will tame the board and make it a little calmer, easier to manage. Then for your sail, obviously, if it's when you're going to put more downhole, there's not much I would say about that. I would say, though, if you cannot upgrade your board, you might be able to get different fins, and that could make a big difference. So it's something to experiment with. And that for fins.
What would you recommend? Are you talking about going bigger, smaller, flexier, stiffer?
Smaller for smaller people. That's kind of a given. But then it's kind of depending also what you like to do. If you like to cruise and go upwind and being able to be mobile, you might not want to go into using multi-fins. So you can stay with a single fin. And then if you want to have a board a little loose and a little more free, then you can experiment with with thrusters and quads. I like the thrusters personally. I like that it still feels carvy, whether the quads feel a little more slidey. So that's my sensations. But it's really a matter of taste, So yeah, those are things to experiment with. But the mast rack forward is the main one.
Okay. Quickly, we've got a question from Toby, and then I want to get through two more questions before we finish. How high do you ride your boom?
My boom is about this high, I think.
Okay, that's pretty high.
Yeah, I like a little bit of height, and I have long harness line. I have 28 inches harness line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. You gotta check on my picture. Sorry, but
all right, we'll look on some photos. Next time you go windsurfing, measure it. Let us know. We'll do a post.
Yeah.
So for someone who is about to go on the water, it's about 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, so on the colder side. What warm-ups should they do before getting in the water?
So you want to, I would say, like start with some shoulder circles, get the shoulders moving a little bit, and then a couple maybe lunges, you know. So like just lunging is gonna mean you're gonna need to be able to balance a little bit, so you can lunge and do some little twist. Lunge and do some reaches overhead. So that's going to be stretching a little bit those lats that we were talking about earlier.
And the hip flexors as well, right? I mean, that's you can really get the hip flexors activated.
Do some like adductor stretch. Actually, you know what? Just stay tuned because I'm going to post a warm-up video. It's just I'm working on it, but
okay, great.
Yeah, like it's what I do is what we call dynamic stretching. So those are dynamic stretches. When you're doing that, you're stretching dynamically. So I like to, dynamic stretch and a couple squats, squat hold, you know? So holding a squat and then a little bit of an explosion out of it just to wake up that strength endurance that you have when you're bottom turning. So you're holding the strength and that little pop that you have if you're going to jump or do an aerial or a top turn. And then that absorption too, and really emphasize engaging your core when you're absorbing your jump, because that's what you want your body to do when it's going to be underwater.
Right. Okay, that sounds great. And all right, say I don't get to windsurf very often. I'm working in an office and I don't live somewhere near the ocean, but I love windsurfing. I have a 2-week holiday coming up and I'm going to be trying to windsurf every day on that holiday. What training should I do the 4 weeks before that?
Or
6 weeks before that? What do I do to get ready for that so that I'm fit?
That's awesome. Well, I don't know that I'd be able to like put it together in just a few words, but that's my jam. That's what I love to do is create programs to have the most fun as possible. Like I always personally do something like that before going to Baja when we go camp for 2 weeks.
So can someone contact you? Would you set up a program for someone remotely? So say someone is in Germany or in France, can they contact you? So that's maybe the answer. So everyone is, they've got a unique circumstance. So the answer to that question is to contact Sarah and you can work on a program. They can hire you to help them develop a program.
So there's my website is hauserlifestyle.com. And so you have a form to contact me there. And then we can schedule a meeting and that's we can go as personalized as you want. So you can I can either direct you to our workouts that I've already created that you can do on your own, or we can do something way more specific where we use video conference tools to do a screening of your posture, so that we really create a program that addresses the specific of your body, what it really needs, and so then also we all can adapt to the goal, because everybody's got different goals. It's not the same preparation if you're going to go spend a month in Pozo, or if you're going to spend a month riding waves in Baja or cruising in Aruba. So you the more you can get specific, the better. But to make it affordable for all people, all walks of life, all price range, I'm creating right now in the studio videos that will be just like people will be just able to do and on their own without any supervision.
Okay, perfect. So I think we're coming to the end of our hour. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. Thank you everyone around the world for tuning in. I'm really loving these weekend sessions where we're getting the community together and talking about windsurfing and sharing tips. And I really love all this advice from Sarah. Thank you so much.
Great advice.
You can find Sarah at Hauser Lifestyle. Find her on Instagram. What's your website again?
Hauserlifestyle.com.
Perfect. Hauserlifestyle.com. Hauser Lifestyle on Instagram. And talk to her, hire her to develop a workout program for you if you go on a trip. She's an amazing trainer. She trains the best windsurfers in the world.
Amazing.
And she is one of the best windsurfers in the world herself. So she knows exactly what she's talking about when she's talking about windsurfing and what you need. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you next week.
Stay safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.